FanDuel has you covered for all your March Madness needs. The brackets are out, March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when their first $5 bet wins. That is $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's cutting down the nets. I've got my eyes on a few underdogs this year. Akron, 13 seed. They're going to upset Arizona in the first round.
I like that
And
call.
if you want to bet on any of the underdogs, FanDuel has the best odds on the market. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Let's start with the Cavs, though, guys. A 16-game win streak came to an end yesterday. The Cavs, for the first time all season, lost a game that they led and/or were tied entering the fourth quarter. They're now 48-1 on the season when leading entering the fourth quarter and/or when it was tied. Jason, you and I were there yesterday live watching it unfold. Is there any big takeaway that fans and the media should be looking into after this loss, or was this simply the case of the Cavs had won 16 in a row and they missed shots down the stretch for basically the first time all season?
Yeah, they're going to lose games once in a while. Like it's going to happen.
It does happen.
And they had some good looks. They missed some looks. Kenny talked about they kind of got out of their offense a little bit. They went heavy ISO at times. Some of the ball movement went away. Orlando, even with their injuries, is a big physical team. And for as good as the Cavs are, for as deep as they are, for as versatile as they are, if there's one thing, if you're an opponent of the Cavs and you're like trying to scout this team out for a playoff series, the only thing left that you can really circle is we want to really get into them, get physical with them. And Orlando did that into the third quarter. They turned him over on 3 straight possessions. They got into Ty Jerome a little bit. He turned it over twice. They got Donovan for 1. And Kenny said that felt like it killed the momentum and it turned the game, and it did. Because the Cavs were in control of this. They had, I think it was a 13-point lead in the third quarter, middle of the third quarter. Yep. And then 3 turnovers, boom, 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 turned into 3 Orlando baskets.
The third one was awful.
Yeah, and that really sort of turned it. And then the fourth quarter, then at the end of the game, they just missed some shots. So, we'll get into a little bit more about Orlando specifically because that could be a playoff opponent. I don't know if there's a necessarily overarching theme to this. I mean, it's one loss. You're not going to panic over a freaking loss in the NBA. Most teams, even the best teams, lose 20 in the course of a season. So, but the one thing that you just sort of want to circle and keep an eye on is just here's another example of a team that really kind of got physical with them because in the playoffs, refs let it go, and refs are going to let these teams play. So here's another team that got up into them a little bit, got physical with them, pushed them around a little bit, and had some success with it.
I think I'm really excited about this loss. I know that seems crazy for you to say why you're excited about it, L, but I like the L because this is a great opportunity for the coaching staff to get in there and highlight the same things that you talked about and say, look, guys, I know we've been winning a lot of these games. We started off slow in some games, and we've been able to pull it back and pull out these games late in the fourth quarter. But this is the type of physicality you're going to see going into the playoffs. These are the type of scrappy teams that are going to muddy the game up, play physical, knock you off the ball, and try to get in your head, so to speak, in terms of their pressure. I like this because now they can point that stuff out on film. Now you can say, hey, we're not invincible. And if you play like that, we can get beat. And good coaches, and I'm sure Kenny will do it, is saying, because sometimes when you're winning games, the process and how you're winning games kind of gets buried a little bit because you can win some games on talent and you can start to get to a point where you feel like, doesn't matter if we turn the ball over, we'll get it back. We shoot very well. We'll knock down some threes. Somebody will save us. Somebody will get hot and we'll hit some threes. No. And the thing that got me and the thing that I've been seeing a little bit more, it hasn't been prevalent. It's not like it's crazy or anything. But this game is a perfect opportunity to show people this is what happens when you play iso ball. When you get stagnant and you go one-on-one versus teams with set defenses and with big teams like Orlando, they're going to make your job a little difficult. So, and then the last thing that I looked at is you can't be fast and loose with the basketball. I mean, any high school coaches will tell you that. You cannot be careless with the basketball. Those 3 turnovers, the back-to-back ones, that was the game. And they lost that game within that little stretch. But if you look at it throughout the game, they had pretty much dominated. They were doing what they needed to do, had the lead going into the fourth quarter. They usually dominated doing that. But I like the fact that now there's some coaching points, Jay, that people can really point to, and it brings us down a little bit to say, look, if you play certain ways, you can't get beat. And so just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I agree with you, G. I mean, you always hear teams say, well, that it was a good loss. In some regards, it was. Orlando they took us to 7 last year.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, this is just a matchup that I think is the kind that gives the Cavs
Absolutely,
fits.
yes.
And I thought Orlando, during the course of that third quarter run, where the Cavs saw a 10-0 lead evaporate in like 2 minutes, and particularly on those 3 straight turnovers where it was an 8-0 run and in the blink of an eye, you're like, what just happened? Legler was saying during the broadcast that before the game when they were talking to Kenny, they had asked Kenny, is there anything about this team that scares you? And I thought they were going to say, well, yeah, the matchup isn't great. Look what happened last year in the playoffs. But instead he said, yeah, they're desperate. And I thought that was appropriate. Orlando's a desperate team. They would love to get into the 7. I don't think it's likely enough for them to get into the 6. But this is why this could be dangerous for the Cavs. And I'm not gonna dwell too much on this, but I don't think they can beat the Cavs 4 times in 7 games. No. I just don't. But I do think that the Cavaliers do not want to see this team in the first round. And the way things are kind of shaken out right now, it's a very likely first round matchup. And I just don't think that would be good for the Cavaliers. I would like to see the Cavs have a first round matchup where they either sweep or win it in 5. And I'm not sure they can sweep Orlando, and I'm not sure they can beat Orlando in 5. I think they would stretch them to perhaps 6 games. And that's just unnecessary basketball that they don't need to put on their shoes.
Of the 4 teams in the play-in situation right now,
yeah,
you're right, Jay. The Hawks, who are in the 7th seed, are 5 full games back of Detroit with about 15 games.
Yeah,
some teams have 16, some teams have 14.
That's a big ask.
Yeah, so the top 6 is most likely set. Mm-hmm. So as it stands right now, Atlanta's the 7. They're a half game ahead of Orlando, who's the 8.
Yeah.
Orlando is then 2 games ahead of Miami and 3 games ahead of Chicago, who are the 9 and 10 seeds.
So they would host that play-in game.
Orlando would play Atlanta first. The winner of that gets the 7.
No. The 7 and 10 play and the 8 and 9 play, don't they?
I thought it was 7, 8, and
no.
then...
I thought the 7 and 10 played and the 8 and 9 played. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
I could be wrong. Hold on.
Well, I think of those 4 teams...
It is. No, I'm right. 7 plays 8.
That seems odd. Why would they do it that way?
Because you only need to win 1 game.
I know, but...
7 plays 8. The winner of that gets the 7 seed. The loser of that then plays the winner of 9, 10.
Well, see, what's wrong with that is the 8's going to have to play a road game, while either the 9 or the 10 hosts a game.
But then it's at home for the 8 seed.
Right.
I understand that, but
you play 1.
You're giving priority to...
You get 2 to win 1 if you're the 7 or 8. You get 2 games to win 1.
Yes.
And if you're 9 or 10, you got to win them both.
Yeah.
But I actually like Orlando to beat Atlanta. I think Orlando will probably wind up.
I think they're a better team.
I think Orlando would wind up as the 7, which would make Atlanta, who's beaten the Cavs a couple of times already
Twice.
this season.
They're not a great matchup for the Cavs either.
Jalen
really.
Johnson's out. They're a very different team.
They are. That's fair.
I think it would be fun for Cavs Atlanta first round just because DeAndre Hunter's here now and
that's true.
Niang and LeVert are there. So I think
that would be a really good first round.
Either way, I don't think those other 2 teams are going to get this. So either way.
But one of them's going to win. One of the 9 or the 10 could likely win.
But then they have to beat.
I know they have to beat the other team.
Yeah.
But
so I think it's going to be Orlando Atlanta. It's just a matter of the order.
Okay.
7, 8.
Yeah.
If they got to go to 6 games, so be it. I like it because
I just don't like putting the miles on your legs.
Mike and I were talking about that.
Series.
Mike and I were talking about that yesterday during the game. The one thing, and this is a different team, so it doesn't matter quite as much, but still, you want the rest. The one thing that the previous championship era figured out was they could smack these teams early and get a week off their feet.
Right.
And we went through and looked at the history of how many times those teams swept series. Atlanta pushed them to 7. LeBron's last year here, but there's a lot of series, first round, second round, that were sweeps. and then they got a week off because that was an older team that needed the rest.
Sure.
I mean, these dudes like 5 years old though.
Yeah, they're younger. They can do it, but you'd still, to me, it's, if I'm just
The fewer
plotting the
games, the
perfect
better.
course, it's going to be quick, short, easy series in the first round.
I would like it. I would like it to be. Of course, if you're gonna play, and I'd take a sweep. But I do feel like there's something to be said for having hard series and understanding the level that you're gonna have to play at.
Yeah, I'm
And
cool
you'll
with
get
that.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
cool with that
Yeah.
in the
You're
finals,
gonna-
in the conference
The
finals.
one thing that, when I was writing the book on the championship, the one thing that Griff said to me that really kind of stuck with me is he said, winning the championship is a war of attrition.
Yeah.
And you're going to get beat up. You're going to have injuries. Guys are going to be exhausted. It's the hardest thing you can, and LeBron said that 100 times, winning the championship is the hardest thing you can do. So the easier you make it on yourself in the early rounds,
The better.
The better it's going to help you in the later rounds
Yeah.
because it all stacks up. And I've talked about before about you shorten your rotation because you have multiple days off between games, especially in the first round. Sometimes you have two, I don't think three, but I think you have 2 days off a lot of times for TV purposes in that first round. So you can extend guys extra minutes, but it's still a load that you're carrying.
Yeah.
And April leads to May, which blends into June. So if they can get an easy, I don't think that they would sweep Orlando. I don't think can beat them in the first round because of the injuries. If they had both Wagner brothers and they had Jalen Suggs, you got a series.
Yeah.
And for as much improved as the Cavs are this year over last year, and they are, like they're significantly better. That is an Orlando team that took them to 7 and was up 18 on the Cavs in Game 7 here. But I just think Orlando has too many injuries. But they're big, they're physical. They are not scared of the Cavs, and they will go right at those guys' necks.
I feel like that is a real budding rivalry. I felt that game yesterday was played with a lot of intensity.
It was.
Ty
And
Jerome and Banchero talking
Yeah.
smack to each other.
Yeah.
Was awesome.
And of course, Wagner is always going to bring out the hate in the opponent and the opponent's fan base. You know, I again found myself reaching into my I hate this guy bag of tricks, even though I don't want to. But I think this is just one of those matchups. Now, Mobley not playing obviously has a lot to do with the way that game played out yesterday. If you start to close your eyes and envision the way a series would unfold with everyone healthy, I obviously like the Cavs a lot more with Mobley in the lineup. But I just think it's going to be a very tough matchup. I'm not going to, hit the panic button over yesterday's loss. I didn't like it, but it wasn't an awful loss. It was to a desperate team that caught a team perhaps back on their heels without one of their best players.
Man, I'm giving them one. Y'all gonna get one game if y'all play.
All right.
Good luck, Orlando.
It's worth remembering these two teams played about a week and a half ago before yesterday.
Yeah.
In Orlando.
Yeah.
Cleveland beat them by 40.
Much different game.
By 40. Now, Evan Mobley didn't play yesterday. Last night, the Cavs did not have their best game by any means. They missed some shots down the stretch.
Man, he was bad
First
shooting
game
the ball
back.
down
As
the
a
stretch.
team, as a team, they're missing some more threes than they had. DeAndre Hunter had a good look at the end, hit the side of the backboard. They missed down the stretch. If you go back and look at their clutch possessions, the Cavs have been the best clutch team in basketball, bar none, hands down. Not just this season, but their numbers in the clutch this season have been historically good. They have a plus 36 net rating.
They came back
in the
to
clutch.
earth last night.
Incredible, and that's due to happen. They're bound to have one game where they don't dominate in the clutch.
Right.
But if you go back and look at the shot selection they had down the stretch, Jason and I were talking before we got on the air today. They had some good looks. They just missed shots
They did.
in the clutch. And sometimes the process is more important than the results, because were the Cavs able to generate decent looks in those moments against a bigger, I don't want to say more physical, but equally as physical Orlando team? Yeah. And Donovan Darius, DeAndre Strus, they've made those shots all season. They missed them yesterday. Anyone freaking out over the result of yesterday's game for the 11th loss of the season on St. Patty's Day, take a chill pill.
Let me tell you
They're
this.
okay.
When the postseason comes, I really don't even care about too many stats. But if Jared Allen and Evan Mobley is listening, your stat that means the most is in points, rebounds, or assists. It's how many times the refs go to the center table and say, we got to see if this was flagrant or not. I need 5 apiece from y'all in the playoffs. 5 apiece. You need to be going over there like, yeah, we got to check this out. Listen, hey, don't get to the Draymond point where you get 12, 13 in the postseason and get suspended. But Jared Allen, I need you to go upside somebody's head a few times, like on accident. And, hey, no intent. I was just going for the ball. Like, you need to set a tone with the Magic, because they think that they really can beat you. Look at that. He got to retaliate on that. Like, listen, goon ball is alive and well. So I need y'all to be figuring out which one of them.
Foul. I don't know how that.
Yeah, I was shocked it wasn't a foul.
And trust me, if you get certain refs during the playoffs, they ain't calling none of that. We ain't gonna say no
They called
names.
last night like a playoff game, I thought.
Yeah, they did. They let him play. It was physical.
And by the way, today's St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying they have 11 losses at St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
when you said
through St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, no one saw that coming.
No, I mean, it's been
No
incredible.
one saw that coming.
And to Mike's point about the shooting, this is two of their worst shooting games have been recently. I think Brooklyn, they shot it poorly, and then this one here yesterday. And there may be a little bit of regression to the mean. We kept saying all year, this team's shooting out of its mind.
Here it is, it's almost 70 games.
And we got to the point of like, well, I guess this is who they really are. And now, finally, there's a little bit of regression.
Yeah.
And the key for them is going to be when their three's not falling, how do you win games? And they have plenty of ways to win games. They are great defensively. Yeah. They have length now with Hunter that they didn't have before. But there's going to be games where you're not making threes. So what are you going to do? How are you going to win in those nights?
Dang, Dean Wade, man, he be waiting right to St. Patty's Day. I ain't seen Dean Wade hit a shot in 6 weeks, it seemed like, bro.
He had a 3 last night.
Yeah, 1-3. I need him to get back on track, bro.
It is important to notice, too, or point out, that when they're not making threes, not having Evan Mobley changes the complete complexion of their offense, because he's the one big they have that can create and get into the paint without someone creating for him. And last night, Tristan Thompson played 11 minutes. If there's one weakness on this Cavs roster, it's that they don't truly have a third legitimate big. Dean Wade can play the center. He's not a center.
No.
DeAndre Hunter can play a small ball big. He's a wing. When Tristan Thompson is your first big off the bench because Evan's having a rest day,
you got to hold.
that is a little bit of a roster weakness in the overall construction of this team.
Yeah, they're one injury away from counting on Tristan in the playoffs.
Does this change the way that they go about was there any inkling of them being like, we're going to play our guys to try to go for some records, and does this put them in a position
record to go for?
Right, yeah,
They can't break a record.
They can't break a record now.
They'll
set a team record. What's the team record?
The team record.
66?
The team record.
Yeah,
so
they
could get to. I mean, they still have a. We're going to talk about 70.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the chase for 70 later. So we'll
I would not use any extra steam going for 70. It means nothing. There's no trophy for 70.
And I think they've done a good job of managing minutes of resting guys,
so far.
of sitting guys.
So far,
they're not going to change that now. If anything, they're going to throttle back.
The only thing, I think the big question is how much energy will they expend to make sure they get the number 1 overall?
I think that's almost decided.
No.
Oklahoma City's.
Oh, I thought you meant in the East.
Yeah, what is that?
No, Oklahoma
They're
City.
half a game ahead of OKC.
Yeah, right now it's very, very close.
Oh, no, we got to still win.
So that's what you're keeping an eye on. You don't care about 70. You don't really even care about 66.
Oh, we got to get that.
You need +1 of whatever OKC wins.
I need that.
But you don't do that at.
Not at the peril of health.
Yes,
I agree with that. You want it.
I'm telling you right now, home court over Boston is far more important than home court over
I agree
OKC.
with that, 100%.
And OKC is loud.
OKC is very
I
loud.
have been there.
I have too for finals games.
Yes.
And it is a madhouse.
Yeah, it's all they have.
Yeah.
It's literally all they have
That's
for
it.
sports.
There's no
I
football.
want that.
There's no baseball.
But I will. There's something about Boston and New York. For you say what you want. The old Oracle, Madison Square Garden, and Boston. You want no part of in a Game 7.
That's a fact. Yeah.
And although, I mean, the Cavs obviously won a Game 7 Oracle, but they had the monster on their side.
Sure.
But in a situation like this, it's not as important with OKC as it is with Boston.
I agree.